All right, welcome to another awesome episode of Teachers Hate Apples. Today I have my friend Trish with me. She's been teaching for about 14 or 15 years. She lost count. She took some time off to raise her kids. She's an amazing person. I am so excited for everyone to hear her story and see all the amazing things that she has done. So, Trish, welcome to Teachers Hate Apples.
Thank you for having me, Alex.
Of course. I'm really excited, and I've been excited about this for days to do this. So, can you start off by just kind of explaining your school experience when you were growing up?
So I went to school down in New York City, and I didn't like school. I started early because of a fall birthday, and I wasn't a well-behaved kid in school. I didn't like
Really?
rules.
That's interesting.
I didn't like rules. I didn't like to follow directions. My favorite thing to do in kindergarten was play in the kitchen, and I didn't like to be told that I had to stop. I got in trouble quite a bit. I struggled at reading immensely, even math. Academically, I wish I had one of my report cards to show you, like FFF, DDDs. Math and reading. So it was...
And you taught reading for several years.
I did. I taught reading for about 10 years. Yeah.
You struggled with it.
I did.
Mm-hmm.
I did. I disliked it very much.
So you took that energy, like your experience, and was like, I figured it out. I probably had a good teacher that helped me figure it out. I want to become that teacher.
That was exactly it. It was a teacher that made a world of difference. Yeah. Awesome. And I think a love of literature and a love of books that I was never exposed to. So
that's interesting.
Yeah.
How did that teacher get you to be so successful?
She allowed me to read whatever I wanted to read, and she introduced me to a series called The Babysitter's Club.
Oh.
And she would let me read that the whole year. She didn't care because I was reading.
Right.
So that's all it took was one teacher to let me be me, and she helped me, and I adored her. She was great.
That's amazing because I was in a parent-teacher conference with you. And you told a parent exactly that. Let them read whatever they want at home.
Exactly. So, that's what it's about. You don't want to restrict them because they might not be good at one thing, but they'll soar on something that they're interested in,
Absolutely. Wow. See? It's a great episode already. We're starting off great. So we kind of talked about why you wanted to go into teaching already. Is there anything else you want to add to that?
It's funny because I didn't know I wanted to be a teacher. I actually went to school for criminal justice. I thought I wanted to be a lawyer or maybe a police officer, and I don't know, something happened where law school, maybe I was just seeing, too many student loans.
Yeah.
So I switched last minute, but it was just, I don't know, I decided to this path and,
Wow.
Yeah. It's weird.
Very
I can't
different.
remember the exact light bulb moment, but it was weird. Very different.
Yeah.
For sure.
So I just wanted to, and you're excellent at this, and I wanted to get all of your tips and tricks on how to build a meaningful relationship with your students. What do you do in this classroom?
First and foremost, you got to have a sense of humor. You have to have humor with your kids, and you have to joke with them and let them joke back with you. Within boundaries and give them the time and the place. But you got to take the time to sit down next to each one and, find out what's going on with them and talk to them about their life too and, their interest and just make that relationship by talking back and forth. It's not, yes, it's about teaching, but it's about talking with the kids. It really being open with them and giving them limits and setting boundaries, but also letting them okay, try it on your own and let them go. I think the kids the most, I think they love my humor. And I'll joke, and sometimes in a firm joking manner where they don't know if I'm joking and they're like, I keep them on the edge of their seat. But I think that's is to have a sense of humor with kids, and just to let them know that you care. And, in this room, we hug. We laugh. I mean, there's an endless amount of hugs going. The kids just love to, show affection and yeah.
Yeah, and they're second graders, so they definitely are still into that.
Yeah.
The older you go up, they want less to do with you, but
this is true.
And then they come back to you after.
They do, and let them. They definitely do. I have kids who they they stalk me sometimes. But and let them talk. Like
Yeah.
let them share and listen, within reason.
Yeah. And I know you run a tough ship in here.
I
You're no
do.
nonsense, but you have that great relationship with your students. How do you, what do you do that makes you think that works? Like how you.
So I mean, to sum it up in a nutshell, I'm tough. I'm strict, but I have high expectations for the kids and I challenge them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they see that. Like I'm not here just to get a paycheck and I'm not here just to teach what the state says we have to teach. I'm here to make these children become good human beings in the classroom and outside of the classroom.
Yeah.
And, I think they see that because they know I care. They know I want them to learn, but it's not just all about learning. It's about, I guess, empathy and compassion and life. And I think the kids get that. Like they know I'm tough and I'm strict, So
right.
I think it's the balance. It's hard to balance both.
It is. It's a fine line that a lot of times, we struggle with making sure we're on the right side of it.
Yeah.
And I do know, I've noticed that a lot of times if you correct a student, you're following it up with 2 or 3 compliments or praises after. Not everyone does that. A lot of people just, oh, you got to fix this, you got to do that. But you go a couple steps beyond and say, oh, now you're doing great.
Well,
Great job going back to work.
That's the hard thing too, because if a kid gets in trouble, like for some it might be the end of the world, or or if they make a poor choice, and that's like something I teach these kids all the time. It's okay to make mistakes, not just academically, but even if they make a poor choice and there's consequences, it's okay. It's how they respond and act to it. Like kids in my classroom know if they lie, they just cross the line. You're better off telling me the truth and we'll deal with it. But if you lie, there might be more consequences. And these kids know that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
I wanted to shift over to your self-discovery phase as a teacher. Think back to when you started and where you are now. Did it take you a while to figure out your methods and your vibe?
It did.
Has it changed over the years?
My whole style has changed. Education has changed. I mean, when I started, it was more, we did thematic lessons and everything was, and to me, those were the better times of teaching, if you ask me. And then we've gone to where it's more, fact-based and research-based. And instead of letting kids just explore and see where they go, and I always, what I think is funny with kids is you have a kid in a classroom who might be 7 and the kid next to them is 8. They're almost an entire year apart. The expectations can't be the same. And I've learned that sometimes I've had to change my gears because what works for that one kid may not work for the next. So, and I'm a pretty regimented person. Sometimes I don't like change, but I've learned over the years that it's not a one size fits all. You gotta be flexible. And my style, it's almost like a pendulum. It goes back and forth and it really depends on the year, the kid, the dynamics of the group, if that makes sense.
Right, yeah. Have you ever gone a couple months into the school year and just be like, this isn't working. I have to switch, swing that pendulum another way?
I have. And sometimes it gets frustrating because you've put so much effort into it. But then, like if you give a kid's an assessment, whether it's a math assessment or reading, and you've taught this and they haven't got it, it's a reflection on yourself for sure. Did I not teach it well enough? Or maybe they didn't understand it, or maybe we just need to reteach it. But yeah, I've had to go back from time to time and reteach things, especially if, like a good amount of the kids aren't getting it.
Right.
But yeah.
And this isn't your first year teaching.
No.
It happens.
Absolutely. But a good teacher will be able to sit back and say, wow, I must not have taught that effectively.
Right.
Because, the grades show it, or so.
Yeah, a good teacher recognizes that and then makes a corrective path.
Absolutely.
For that. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. Many people I talk to are always like, oh, teaching's so easy. You're just a glorified babysitter. You have summers off. You have vacations throughout the year. That always frustrates me when people say that. I have a couple projects that I work on, and I have another part-time job. and I work all summer. I don't have summers off because I need more money to pay the bills. How would you respond to that?
So I agree. You get people all walks of life. They'll sit there and be like, "Oh, being a teacher is great," and it is great. It's amazing. It's rewarding, but it is an immense amount of work. And I agree with you. I hear people say, "Yeah, but you have summers off," and yeah, I have summers off, but it's people just don't realize the amount of work before school, during school, after school, and then even though we have summers off, we're thinking about our classroom about a month before school even starts. So maybe we have a month off. Yeah, we get weeks off, but we're always thinking about what we're going to do when we go back and what we're going to change. And it's nonstop. And, our salaries now are, teachers get paid decent, but if you added up the amount of time, hours outside of a classroom, it's just, no, it infuriates me when people say, well, you have the summers off or whatever. And my biggest challenge to people is I'd love for them to come in my classroom for a week.
Right.
Not a day.
Just a week. Yeah.
Just a week.
Yeah.
Because I think we run circles. Because that's the thing, too, is we're not just teachers.
Yeah.
We are computer tech people. We are nurses. We are social workers. Like, we deal with everything in the classroom. It's almost like triage.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Right?
Absolutely.
It's crazy how
it is.
How much you actually do in a day.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'm exhausted.
And every single day is different.
It is different.
Like you think, oh, all right, nope, it's going to be very different tomorrow.
No, and that's the other thing. You'll be in a classroom and something might happen. Like it could be either, a kid cuts himself or a kid just gets a bloody nose. Perfect example.
Yeah.
You're in the middle of teaching a lesson and the kid just starts pouring blood everywhere, and it's like, you got to stop.
Yeah.
Like.
I had a student, I do a Lego club after school, and I had a student have a bloody nose, and I was the only one there.
Right.
I was like, here, grab tissues.
Right. It's like,
so,
and think about it. You're in a classroom with 18, 19, 20 kids, one adult, like you just said. Lord help you if you got to go to the bathroom.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't get to choose when you want to go to the bathroom.
No. Yeah, sometimes when I'm walking in the hallway, somebody will be like, hey, you got 30 seconds? Can you watch the kids when I go to the bathroom?
Exactly. It's
so
like...
It definitely happens at least like 3 times a week.
Yeah.
So it's crazy. So,
I hear you.
Was there anything when you were in school learning to become a teacher that really stuck with you? Like I hear my professor's voice in my head saying this certain thing. Is there anything?
So I had a professor, and I have to tell you, I know you said only stick to first names, but I have to give accolades to this woman, Dr. Rosemary Cameron. I think she's dead now, that's why. She was amazing, and it was at the college that I went to. She was my children's literature teacher, and she was older. She was probably in her 70s teaching at a college, and her love and her passion for teaching and being with kids at that age.
Yeah.
And it was just, I always remember her saying, you can teach a kid anything through a book. And for anything.
Yeah.
Any subject. And she would have a picture book for any subject, even math, science, it didn't matter. And you could teach a child through a picture book and get a child to sit on a rug. And that's just always stuck with me. And she's right.
Yeah.
If...
It's like going back to the basics. Like you wouldn't think, a picture book. After 3rd grade, like we shouldn't do those anymore.
And I think that's like such a stereotype. And
right.
I think so many 4th, 5th grade teachers don't use picture books because I think it is that stamina. That's for little kids.
Right.
No.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Thinking back in my education, I always loved it when the teacher would read to us.
Yeah.
Or like we would have a chapter book at dismissal time, right? When we're waiting for the buses to get called, and it was great. Like there was one book that I think was called Shipwreck, and like this guy was on an island, and it was so cool. And I've been trying to find that book for years. I can't. I don't know. So it must not be called that because I can't find it. But
isn't it funny though? That's your perception. That's what you think it was, but
right. So
I
gotta find it. It was a really cool book.
And sometimes
when I was in 4th grade, I think so.
Sometimes the conversations, though, that come out of those books, and it really makes the kid's imagination just go. It's, it is. It's awesome.
it's definitely an amazing experience.
Yeah,
So,
for sure. You know,
I have a couple more questions before we wrap it up.
sounds good.
I'm really enjoying this conversation.
Me too.
So, teaching can get very political at times.
Okay.
And how do you deal with the political climate? And then the second part of that is, uh, I really try to make the environment that we work in a great place, and I know you do too. So how do you do that?
So when you say teaching can be political, I mean that could be a two-way street, because it could be political from the bureaucratic end. It could be political from, it depends on where you live. In an elementary level, politics have no business being in a school. I'm here to teach kids, and no matter what it takes. And I know this sounds awful, but even when it comes to politics and mandates that come, if it's not working, or if my kids aren't receptive, I might have to throw that out the window, because I have to do what's best for my kids first, regardless of sometimes what the political game is. I hate how, when it comes time for budget season and they're always holding money, and, it's almost like holding an ice cream in front of a kid's face, and they throw stipulations, and schools have to do this if you want your funding. And money should never be used when it comes to politics and the governors and all of that. Like, we shouldn't have to fight to get money, and we shouldn't have to worry about budget cuts and things like that. So if that's what you're talking about and stuff like that, there's no business for that, especially at the elementary level with little children. Mm-hmm. No. Yeah. And I will reiterate, on the other side, politics has no business being in a school with kids. Kids are here to learn about academics.
Right.
We have to teach them to be good citizens and things like that. So it's just interesting.
Yeah. And so how do you deal with the disagreements with other teachers in the building? Everyone has their own idea, and that gets a little political.
It does. And that's the beauty, though, of people and America in and of itself, that teachers can disagree. And I tell my kids in my classroom all the time, there's coworkers that I work with that we don't always see eye to eye, but it's how we respect and respond to each other. I don't have to agree with them, and they don't have to agree with me. Right. But we have to be polite and cordial and carry on our conversations, especially to set a good example for these little guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
These students should not see teachers yelling at each other.
Never. Never.
That is probably one of the worst things you can do.
Oh, absolutely.
Is show that. So
it's good for kids to see teachers disagree and problem solve it and work it out, because that's a great example for them. Mm-hmm. But no, arguments between adults in a school setting has no business, and maybe they don't belong there.
Yeah, it can. Yeah, it does happen, unfortunately.
It does, and it's awful.
Yeah. So my last question for you is, I want your teacher success story. What's something that maybe when your batteries are a little drained down and you're having a hard time, you think back to it, wow, that was, this is your tooting your own horn moment. What's that amazing story that you've done?
It's funny because, Alex, I wish I could give you one. I taught ballroom dance as an after-school program here for several years. And I had a student in this school that nobody could touch. Behavior, attitude, you name it. And this little boy did ballroom dance with me and loved it. And he started turning around behaviors and attitudes, and he even started attending school for that program in and of itself. And I saw that child probably 8 years later at the high school level. And this was almost like a grown man. I think he was like 17 or 18 at this point. And he came running up to me and gave me a hug and told me that ballroom dance experience, which, that's above and beyond. It's not academics. And it touched me, because that kid was going down a bad road. And, for him to see me 8 years later and remember me was amazing. And, and then when I think about now, so I have kids that I taught 3-4 years ago. They come visit me every day. And if I didn't have an impact on them, they wouldn't come visit me now.
Right.
So it's definitely, I know I'm doing something right. And it's those success stories right there that just it makes it every day. So, this is why I do it.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know, it doesn't have to be good
Yeah.
grades or, that make the relationship between just anything that you do. It makes those kids want to come back.
Yeah.
So.
Those are two great examples. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even the parents. Don't leave the parents out because
Right.
parents are huge. And when you see parents and, they give you compliments and you can compliment them on a well job, it's, those are a part of it too.
Right. And I know we had a difficult parent-teacher conference earlier in the year.
Oh, those were fun.
And, but the way we were both on the same page and we made the parents feel really comfortable with the situation that they had to deal with. And they kind of had their guard up at the beginning. And it's like I was able to physically see, like, the guard go away after we were talking to them.
It's funny because a light bulb just went off. At first, I wasn't honing in on what conference you were talking about, but now I know exactly what conference you were talking about. And yeah, you're right. I was dreading that conference.
Right.
Because it was a pretty sensitive topic that we wanted to discuss. And I think, this is like so encompassing of everything though, because our relationship, mine and yours, and working together and the way we delivered it. But the parents, I think that was reflective on you and I. We made the parents feel comfortable, and I think they were happy when they left here. And, but yeah.
Right. And they've been super friendly and awesome.
Amazing.
Right? Great communication with us. And
it has.
So I think it really turned things around.
It did. Yeah. Communication is key, and the way you do it.
It's amazing.
It really is. It is.
So,
Yeah.
Anything else you want to add about education?
You alluded to, as far as like what with the people that you work with.
Yeah.
You gotta have good coworkers too, because let me tell you something. The struggle is real sometimes with teaching, and you have to have amazing, awesome coworkers to laugh, cry, vent,
right,
kick, scream, whatever it is to get you through the day. And I have to say, I think you and I are really blessed. I mean, you're an amazing coworker, but I think it's our wing too. I think our wing is pretty awesome.
It's a good hallway.
It really is. So, it's key.
Yeah, there were times I wanted to throw the towel in just because of the people I was working with.
I hear you.
Yeah. It can get really tough sometimes.
I haven't felt like that this year, but
it's been a couple of years for me. But.
Yeah, this year's been great.
Yeah.
So. Let's duplicate it next year.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thanks so much. It's been amazing to hear your story, and
thank you.
I'm excited for the rest of the stuff we're going to do this year. So.
That's awesome. Thanks for listening.
All right. That was Trish, second grade teacher, fantastic friend and coworker and teacher, and great mom as well. So thank you so much for joining us.